Are you digging up the dirt on your dead? Want to find out how? Hear the latest on new family history sources and websites with interesting and fun guests and experts. Find out what other people have been learning about their ancestors. From kings to thieves, inventors to farmers, nothing that's been discovered should surprise us anymore, but it always does. Find out what we mean. Great family history stories and information are on the way now with Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and extremegenes.com.
It's been this way for generations.
Extreme genes, extreme genes. Dates in the Bible don't quite match the marriage certificate. Extreme genes, extreme genes. Uh-oh.
Hello, Genies, and welcome to the 100th edition of Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. Well, it seems only fitting that for our 100th show, we should have a totally outrageous family history story, and indeed we do. And by the way, nearly everyone involved in this story is still living. Yes, it involves interviewing family members, DNA, taking hair from a corpse. I mean, wait till you hear this story. It's coming up in about 8 minutes. Also, we're going to hear an encore presentation of one of my favorite interviews from our first 100 shows. A visit with a woman who descends from John Brown, the abolitionist, who is generally thought to have lit the fuse of the Civil War. He greatly impacts her life to this day. That'll be later in the show. But first, it's time to check in with Boston and David Allen Lambert, Chief Genealogist for the New England Historic Genealogical Society and American Ancestors. Greetings, David.
Greetings, Fish, and happy 100th episode.
Thank you, sir.
Have you seen the recent news about the lady in Germany? It's really amazing. 71 years old, and she's located her mother, who she was born to in a German work camp during World War II.
Wow.
It's amazing to think that after 7 decades, you have a connection that you can make. It's wonderful. Her mother's still alive, and all through the process of going online.
Yeah, Mom's 91 years old, and she had a love affair with a German soldier who was married, and then the soldier raised the woman who's now 71. It's a great story.
Oh, it really is. And speaking of love children, Warren Harding back in the 1920s, and of course after his death, there was this controversy that a woman that he was known to keep company with, Nan Britton, had a love child. Well, this girl born in 1919, turns out it is his child after all.
Wow, how'd they figure this out?
Through DNA. Harding descendants on his other side of his family through his brother's descendants, and the grandson of Warren Harding through this baby that he had. It's amazing. This gentleman lives out in Colorado, and he is now the descendant of Warren Harding, and perhaps serves more to the
Wow.
story.
It was never thought that Warren Harding had any children.
That's right, and maybe Burke's Peerage of American Presidents will now have to have an updated entry.
Absolutely.
Digging into history recently, the East Carolina University has stumbled upon a really interesting discovery, a 400-year-old plus mystery.
Wow.
You've heard of Roanoke?
Oh, yeah.
They may have found where some of the settlers went. They've discovered a 10-karat gold signet ring with a lion or a horse carved into it. They found some other artifacts that directly tie to Europeans in Native American encampments on islands nearby where Roanoke was.
So is this suggesting that they were actually taken in by the Indians instead of destroyed?
Well, it's a combination. It could be either or. Either the Indians raided and pillaged and took these items, or perhaps maybe the settlers went there for aid and continued on. It's always been rumored that the native population there may, in fact, have a European connection. So who knows? Further discoveries will probably uncover more artifacts as this story unravels.
What is that, like the first clues in 400 years? This is phenomenal.
It's amazing to think that something from 1587 is being discovered. Archaeology is an amazing tool.
Now, tell me, David, are they doing DNA tests then on some of the people who are descendants of the local tribes there to see if there might be some connection?
Well, that's an interesting possibility. The problem with researching that far back is that your 23 chromosomes are going to have a variety of mutations that may be gone. So that it may have already had European in the past 200 years on one of the families of the Indians that they're testing. I wanted to let you know the exciting news from Boston is that we will now be editing the Mayflower Descendant, which is a publication of the Society of Mayflower Descendants since 1899. And also to let you know, our free database for the week is Barnstable Church records from 1639 to 1892. And last but not least, my tech tip, a real simple and free one. Go onto your social media and create a group called A Family Homestead. Take all the cousins of one set of paternal grandparents and your other cousins from your maternal grandparents, unite them, invite them, and put them in, share photos and stories. It's a free way to wrap up the summer and to kind of share the stories and the history of your family.
That's unbelievable. That's great stuff. David, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
Talk to you then.
And coming up next, perhaps the most incredible family history discovery story we've ever had on the show. Wait till you hear what Steve Anderson has to say about what he's learned about his very own family, including his 8 siblings. It's in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps people access and learn from their DNA. 23andme.com offers one of the most detailed ancestry composition reports on the market today, telling you what % of your DNA is from different regions around the world. The 23andMe service also allows you to connect with people who may be related to you through DNA. With over 1 million customers, you could discover hundreds of matches with relatives who share your DNA and ancestry. Simply order a DNA kit at 23andme.com and your kit will arrive in the mail. Provide a small saliva sample and send it back in the prepaid package. When your reports are ready, you can access them in a secure online account and start exploring. Find out why over 1 million people from around the world have done 23andMe. Order your kit today for $99 at 23andme.com. That's the number 23andme.com.
Genies, not long ago, something happened with one particular online research service that changed everything. It happened with a service that already has 75 million members worldwide, and it's not who you think it is. Hi, it's Fisher, and you know I'm always looking for new and better ways for you to discover your ancestors, not just the data, but the stories. The online service I'm talking about takes your family tree and then uses its powerful automated technology to match the people in your tree to over 5 billion records from around the world. Censuses, newspaper stories, vital records with 97% accuracy. This means no more wading through thousands of useless so-called hints. This also means the site itself is constantly looking for matches for you, even while you're sleeping. What site does all this? It's myheritage.com. You can try myheritage.com for free. Here's a special gift from me. Use discount code EXTREMEGENES after signing up and get an exclusive 20% discount at myheritage.com.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, and once in a great while, you run across a story that just leaves your jaw on the floor. And I think this is one of those stories, and, I'm not going to give you any hint about it other than to introduce Steve Anderson, who I spoke to about it over the weekend. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. Steve is a Minnesota boy who ran across some interesting history in his family some time back. Let's just go back to the beginning, Steve, and tell about how this all came about.
All right. About 45 years ago, my older brother was in an accident. He was crushed, needed some intense medical care, needed lots of blood transfusions. So call went out asking for blood from family members. So we called all the cousins in and siblings and all the other stuff. I was probably about 10 years old at that time, and my dad came to donate. And when he donated, the doctor said, well, sir, we appreciate your donation, but we cannot use your blood for your son because it doesn't match. And so, all these years, my mother has always made it a point to talk about how much my older brother and I were alike. She would buy identical clothes. She would shave our head and always tell us and people around, boy, these two look like twins. They're just, anyhow. So immediately that whole issue came into question. Okay, if you don't belong to him, who is your dad? And then fast forward about 20, 25 years, and my older sister got into a big fight with my dad and stomped over to my mom and just said, I just wish he wasn't my dad. And so my mom said, well, I've got something to tell you. He really isn't.
Oh, boy.
That kind of created some issue. So through the years, we kind of knew that there were a couple of the 9 kids in our family that were not kids of my father that raised us. My younger brother and I have always talked about, let's get some DNA testing and find out who is and who isn't. And by the way, there was always a story in the family about my mother getting sick when she was 45 years old and writing a letter and telling all the secrets in this letter. And it was given to her sister with the idea that my mother was going to die and then the sister would give it to us kids.
Wow.
Well, my mother never died. She's still alive at 93. And the sister has long since died. And so we've always looked for this letter and kind of assumed that it was given to one of the cousins or another aunt.
Now, how are you guys dealing with all this? I mean, Mom tells the sister that Dad isn't your father. You're finding out that he doesn't match from blood. You skip ahead 20 years. There's a lot of families that don't last 20 years after news like that.
Well,
I mean, how did you all cope with this?
I don't know. We just did, and not only that, but we really get along. We really, after all these years, we are a very close family. We keep in touch with each other on a weekly basis. We come back for reunions and love them. I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
So let's get back to this now. Your brother was thinking, we got to do some DNA. We got to find out something here.
Yeah. So he has a friend, and his friend owns a lab, a DNA lab that does paternity testing throughout the world. It's in Southern California, and he talked to him about this, and he said, hey, if you just get some DNA, you need to get some from your dad, you need to get some from your mom, and then one of you kids need to provide some DNA. I had the means to do it, so I thought, all right, I'll pay for it, and then that'll create the base, and then any of the kids in the family who want to can pay to have their own DNA tested against this standard that we've created with Mom and Dad.
Wow.
Well, when my dad died, my brother said, okay, this is our last chance, Steve. Dad is in the viewing room of the funeral home.
Oh, no.
So I went to the other corner of the room and created a distraction, and my brother reaches in and pulls out a handful of hair.
From your father's corpse.
Yeah. Oh. So, he gave me the signal, got it, it's all here. And so everything went fine after that.
Now to do that, by the way, I understand you need roots to get any DNA out of hair. There's none in the follicle itself, but it's in the roots.
Right, and we checked that to make sure that we had it.
Okay.
And if we didn't, we were then going to ask the funeral director if he could provide us with some,
Right.
Which, by the way, Tom had already asked him that, and after the funeral, we didn't realize this was going to happen. After the funeral, he came to us with an envelope with Dad's hair in it, so we had plenty to work with.
You had a lot, yes.
We did. And then with my mom, my niece was doing some kind of research at school, and we just asked Mom, can we get a cheek swab so that we can help this niece, get some data for her, and she was fine with that. So we got it for Dad, we got it for Mom, and then I provided a cheek swab, and I knew that my younger brother and I were Dad's sons because we look like him, our mannerisms are like him.
So you were going to check out just fine.
Right. And I was fine with that. And we get the results back, and Tom's friend says, Mr. Anderson, got your results back, and you do not belong to your father.
Ooh.
Well, yeah, ooh is right. And then my brother was so shocked by this, he said, hey, I'm going to get tested. So we ended up testing him, and he doesn't belong to my father.
Okay.
So then I talked to my sister. I'm very, very close to her, and I need somebody to vent with. And so I talked to her, and eventually she says, okay, I'm getting tested. And so she gets tested, and she doesn't belong to him. And I thought, okay, we've got a faulty match here. We've got a bad sample. So,
this can't be.
Well, we found Dad's razor, and it had plenty of hair in it. And our friend in California said, listen, give me that. There's skin samples, flakes in there, and I'll use that. He did the test again, ran it again, and the results were all the same.
Oh.
So she called another sister. She says, I can't believe that. This is impossible. I'm going to get tested. And she's not Dad's. Long story short, 9 children, 8 different fathers, and Tom and I found out that we were both from the same father. Oh. And so I confront my mother and said, hey.
Now, how old is she at this point when you confronted her?
At this point, this was 3 years ago, so she was 90 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And her mind is very sharp. And so I said, Mom, listen, we've had some DNA testing done, and we found some surprises here. And, she denied it at first, but the next day she called and said, Steve, come on over, we need to talk. And we talked, and she gave me the names of all the fathers.
For each of the children, each of the 9?
Yeah. And Tom and I did one more test and found out that we are actually from the same father. But none of us 9 children, were from the father that raised us.
So 9 kids, 8 fathers, 1 marriage, but none of the kids from the father in the marriage.
Correct. And, my dad never, ever said a thing about this to us kids. And I remember once getting mad at Mom for something as a kid, I don't know. And Dad just turned to me and he said, Steve, you don't ever talk to your mother like that. He says, you show respect to your mother.
Now, he obviously knew, right? Was this an arrangement because perhaps he couldn't have children?
After we heard about the 2 other siblings at first, many years ago, the joke in the family was, wouldn't it be funny if we found out Dad was sterile? Well, I don't think it's a joke anymore. I think it's pretty much what we've concluded. Because, they stayed together. They were married for 25 years and eventually did get a divorce, but not because of this, because of something else. But wow. You don't stay together for 25 years and not have children.
So you think there was an arrangement?
I don't know. If I had to conclude something, I would say there was some kind of arrangement. But what was interesting is my younger brother, Tom, who was back only about 7 or 8 years ago in our hometown. There was a fair there, and he was back for that. And my dad came up to him with an older gentleman, and he said, Tom, there's somebody here I'd like you to meet. And he introduced him, and then they walked away. And Tom thought that was so weird until we realized now that was his father, or our father.
Wow.
That he had just been introduced to. So Dad obviously knew enough to tell this guy that, hey, do you want to see one of your sons? And brought him to introduce him to him.
All right, so here's the question, Steve, and I think the point of all this that's very important to people listening right now is I'm sure there are a lot of other folks out there dealing with family secrets, things they're concerned about, things they're upset about. Let's talk about how you all have dealt with it. Now, everybody knows at this point, yes?
No, there are 2 that don't. Well, one died, and so that's a moot point now, but there's one still alive that does not know about it, and we cannot let this individual know until our mother is gone and the wife of her father is still alive. So,
okay.
No, we can't do that.
So complications, right. Do no harm, do no pain first, right.
Who she is, we know she will then go and confront the wife or somebody or our mother, and it just wouldn't be good.
Okay, so how's this affected all your relationships? With Mom, particularly?
Yeah, with 9 of us, there's one who won't see her anymore. There's one who just says, I'm done with her. With me, it took me about 3 months. There was an enormous sense of betrayal up front. But after about 3 months of working through this, I finally was able to put it aside. And this is about 3.5 years ago. And I still call my mother every Sunday night. Others have handled it very well. Others, just think this is a fascinating story. Laugh about it, and when we get together, it's a great source of entertainment. But a couple of them are really struggling with it, and one in particular, really, he won't have anything to do with her now. So we have varying degrees all the way from, no, I'm not your son anymore, to, Mom, we all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. Not quite like this, but we all do.
Yeah. Well, has anybody reached out to half-siblings from some of the other fathers?
No. We've consciously made it a point to really not do any of this until a few more people have passed on. We just need to make sure all of the spouses of the men are gone. And even then, I think we want to be extremely careful who we reach out to.
That's right.
Because some will handle it well and some won't.
That's right. It's a delicate situation, isn't it?
It is. You just have to play it by ear. I know that, one of the things for me that's been a real blessing is growing up, I've always seen on my father's side, the father that raised us, which, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, he is my father, and his posterity is my posterity.
Right.
And he will always be, and I've talked with my siblings, and they all agree completely that Dad, especially given now seeing what he has done and raising us and never betraying that secret, has just risen him as far as respect. But we grew up seeing his siblings dying of cancer, and his parents both died of stomach cancer, and his grandfather died of stomach cancer. And so about when I hit 50, I'm 61 now, when I hit 50, the doctor every year ordered a colonoscopy.
Right.
When I found out about this, that was the first thing to go. I talked to him and said, hey, can we go to the 5-year checkup? And he says, we're fine on that.
Steve, unbelievable story. And I can't thank you enough for sharing it with us. I think it's of benefit to a lot of people who might be dealing with secrets like this, perhaps to learn from how you people have done so. And God bless and good luck.
Great. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
It's a story that's not over yet.
Oh, not by any means. Not by any means. Thank you, Scott.
Whew, I think we all have to catch our breath after that one. Coming up next, one of my favorite segments from our first 100 shows. It's a descendant of abolitionist John Brown telling her story. Catch it in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
Can't figure out how to get your favorite Windows genealogy software running on your MacBook? Look no further than Crossover. Crossover by Codeweavers at www.codeweavers.com allows you to run your Windows software on your Mac without the need to buy a copy of Windows. Crossover is easy to install and simple to use. Crossover supports many popular genealogy packages like Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Personal Ancestral File, Family Tree Builder, and more. Crossover also lets you run other popular productivity apps, like Microsoft Office, and a wide range of games. So if you're looking for an easy, affordable solution to your Windows compatibility needs, visit www.codeweavers.com today to download your free trial of Crossover. And don't forget to use the deal code FAMILY for an additional 40% off when you purchase Crossover.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
Hey, welcome back to Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, our 100th show. Very excited about that. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And one of the best parts about the whole thing is getting to visit with so many interesting people with amazing stories. Like this one with Alice Kesey McCoy, a descendant of abolitionist John Brown, who many say started the Civil War. What is your relationship to him?
I'm his great-great-great-granddaughter. That's three greats.
Three greats. And you've taken his legacy and are actually living it very much today. So let's talk about this. When did you first know that you were descended from John Brown?
I found it out when I was 16 from a local amateur historian. My family didn't really talk about it much.
Really? Now, is that because they had some concern about it or they just didn't care?
Actually, when Annie, John Brown's daughter, moved to California, the family kind of put it behind them so that their children could live a normal life. So it was something that they were proud of, but they kind of kept it in the background from their children to protect them from all the notoriety. And that just continued through the family. My grandmother in 1976 participated with a group of women and made a quilt that depicted parts of American history that shouldn't be forgotten. And her quilt piece was on Harper's Ferry. And while she was quilting it, she told the women that she was descendant from John Brown. The quilt ended up hanging at San Jose State University, and it was written up in the paper, a little blurb, that John Brown's granddaughter had a piece of the quilt. And this local historian, Jean Libby, found that article, tracked down my grandmother, and tracked down me. And so since 1976, we've been in touch. To begin with, I didn't care. I was 16. I really didn't care at all.
But there's quite a legacy there, and you had to sort a few things out because John Brown is revered on the one hand and despised by others on the other hand.
Yes, and I experienced that. I live in Texas now, and he's not on the revered side here in Texas.
Have you experienced some problems as a result of this?
I actually gave a speech a few years ago at my local library, and I had a picketer. Someone actually picketed the library because they were spending money on a John Brown event.
All these years later. So you were 16 when you found out. You didn't care at that point. When did you care? And then what happened as a result of that interest?
I grew up, moved away, got married, had children, and Jean still kept in touch with me, and she would send historians to me who wanted to talk to a descendant of John Brown. So I started doing some research. My kids were little, couldn't do a lot. As soon as my kids were in high school, I kind of went crazy with doing the research. And when my kids moved out to college, John Brown and his entire family moved into my house.
Oh, boy.
I have an office that is completely John Brown. I have files. I have artwork. I do have a couple of Bibles that were the family's. I have one that's very near and dear to me that was owned by Oliver. He carried it in Kansas during the bloody years of Kansas.
So as you have studied John Brown, obviously there's a great connection for you at this point. What is this side of him that you go, well, I'm not really sure I like that?
Well, there's parts of everyone that you can like and
Absolutely.
don't like. The parts that happened in Kansas, well, I don't agree exactly with what happened in Kansas. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what his motivation was, but yes, we'll say it. He's responsible for the death of some people at Passawatomie Creek. He thought his family was in danger, and there were bounties on his family's head, and so he struck first. Am I proud of that? Not really, but it's a part of who he is. It's a part of the whole story of John Brown.
Oh, absolutely. We all have interesting characters in our backgrounds, and they do
yeah.
make it colorful, don't they?
They do. I mean, there's just so many interesting things. In studying John Brown, he has a granddaughter that sued Warner Brothers over the Santa Fe movie.
Huh. And there have been a lot of movies made about him over the years.
There's been a few, yes, and most of them are kind of not that great.
Not that accurate, or do you just don't like the light they shed him in?
Well, many are not accurate, but again, it's Hollywood, so of course they always change things. And some of them I don't care for the light they shed them in, but mostly because of the accuracy.
All right. Now, how about your kids? How have they taken to this?
Well, I have twin boys, Manfred and Jeffrey, who are now 27 years old, and they are proud of it, but they're still not at the age where they really care that much about it. They'll listen to me and they can spout some of the stuff back to me, but they're really not that excited about it. And growing up in Texas, they never really learned about John Brown except from me.
So you have taken his legacy now and kind of adopted it because, of course, he was a big-time abolitionist. This was the whole point of really his behavior that led to so much violence. You today also go and fight his battle.
I do. I'm on the board of two really amazing organizations. John Brown lives in Lake Placid, New York, which is actually right next door to North Elba, where John Brown lived for a number of years. And it's a human rights education organization that I'm very proud to be on the board of governors of. And then I'm also on the Frederick Douglass Family Institute, which is founded by Kenneth Morris, who is the three-time great-grandson of Frederick Douglass. And there's a really interesting story there about us. Frederick Douglass and John Brown met right before the Harper's Ferry raid, and that was the last time anyone in the families ever spoke. They never spoke again until about 2009 when Kenneth and I talked on the phone. And then in 2012, we actually met in person, and we have pictures we had taken that this is the first time that the Douglass and the Brown families had been together in 152 years.
Isn't that something when you think about that? And
Yeah.
you've really taken this to a new level. And there are a lot of concerns around the world right now, like human trafficking and sex trade and slaves.
Yes, actually, there are more slaves now than there were in the 1800s in America. Throughout the world, there are more slaves.
So let's talk for a minute about this idea of taking a legacy, as you've done with your ancestor, and basically magnifying it. It's obviously, John Brown is back, 6 generations from you. You have really taken what he did and taken it into the 21st century. How can other people do this with their ancestors?
Gee, it's an interesting question. There's always somebody in your family tree that you just really connect with. Or at least I found people have said there's always someone in their family tree they connect with. But everybody has somebody in their family tree that did something miraculous, something unique, something remarkable, be it a firefighter, be it someone who died for slavery, but they didn't have to die for their passion. I know of one woman who is a great seamstress because all of her ancestors have been seamstresses, and she was so excited when she found that out. She thought it was just her, and she's gone back and seen that, that's how her family made their living. So I'm sure there's some way you can connect with somebody specifically in your family.
Is there somebody else in your line that you have a strong connection with?
I have a great affection for Annie, his daughter, my great-great-grandmother, and I have a very strong love of Martha, who was John Brown's daughter-in-law, who to me is one of the true heroes of the 19th century, the 1800s. She married into a family that her family didn't want her to marry into because the Browns were very controversial. She spent time at Kennedy Farm before the raid helping take care of the men. There were 20 men living in a house, and they were hiding, and they had Martha and Annie there to make it look more normal and take care of hiding them and cooking for them. And then they went back home to New York, and when John Brown was hung, The family all took to bed ill, and Martha, who was now pregnant, took care of everybody, took care of the farm, took care of everything, kept it running. And her husband died at the raid. When she finished taking care of everyone, she came down sick, went to bed, and basically had her daughter and died because she had nothing left to live for. So she gave her youth, her husband, her daughter who died, and her life for the fight against slavery.
What a story.
Yeah.
Alice Kesey-McCoy, it's been a delight talking to you today, and thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
You're very welcome.
Alice Kesey-McCoy, a descendant of abolitionist John Brown. And coming up next, Tom Perry talks preservation on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Hi, Genies, it's Fisher, and I've been telling you about MyHeritage.com's amazing new technology that searches your family tree day and night for you, finding matches even while you sleep in documents and other people's trees. Here's a find I never would have made without it. It's a newspaper story about a relative of mine, Paul Sagal, who I knew many years ago. It's from 1943, when Paul was serving in the Pacific. When he learned his father died, he wrote a poem to his brother that indicated he wouldn't be returning for the funeral. He wrote, "There'll be no furlough for me. I'm in the Marines, you see. Alive and well as I am, memories I'll keep of my dad." Then the newspaper editor added, "These are all the sentiments that will win this war. There are treasures like this one waiting for you now." Put MyHeritage.com's superb technology to work for you with a 20% discount. Just enter the one-word promo code EXTREMEGENES. MyHeritage.com is the next big thing.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps people access and learn from their DNA. 23andme.com offers one of the most detailed ancestry composition reports on the market today, telling you what % of your DNA is from different regions around the world. The 23andMe service also allows you to connect with people who may be related to you through DNA. With over 1 million customers, you could discover hundreds of matches with relatives who share your DNA and ancestry. Simply order a DNA kit at 23andme.com and your kit will arrive in the mail. Provide a small saliva sample and send it back in the prepaid package. When your reports are ready, you can access them in a secure online account and start exploring. Find out why over 1 million people from around the world have done 23andMe. Order your kit today for $99 at 23andme.com. That's the number 23andme.com.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
And welcome to the preservation segment of our program, Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. It is Fisher here at the Radio Root Sleuth with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. Tom, welcome back. Good to have you.
Good to be back.
Well, we're hearing a lot of people who are having trouble playing discs. They record it on one machine, they send it to somebody who has the same machine, and the disc won't play. What's going on there?
Okay, you run into this a lot. It's an incompatibility problem. It's almost common sense, but sometimes we put on blinders when we're buying stuff. You know, like I tell people when they come into our store, we had a couple last week that came in and says, "Hey, I bought one of these VHS to DVD machines, or I bought one of these little boxes that I plug my VHS into or my Hi8 and then plug it into my computer, and I go and burn these discs, and there's glitches in it, or it looks fine, but then I send it off to my uncle. He pops in his DVD player and it won't play." Okay, the reason for this is the quality of the parts. The same reason Maserati costs more than a Ford Fiesta. It's the parts that are in it that make the whole, so to speak.
Right.
And so what happens is, we've said this before, most computers are not made to turn stuff from analog to digital. That's not what they're designed for.
Right.
They're designed to work with digital information they're giving and compact it, move around, do whatever. So what happens, you have these little boxes that are usually like $50, and the reason it's $50 is the components in them are pretty cheap. And so what happens, you plug your VHS into it, this little box is trying to turn all your analog stuff into digital and then put it in a format that the computer understands. It's like you have too much earwax in one ear and it's not hearing the conversation right.
Right.
So it's getting your zeros and your ones all mixed up. And there's nothing worse in this world than getting your zeros and ones mixed up.
Can't have that.
Oh, absolutely not. So you're getting glitches and all kinds of stuff. And then once in a while, in some of your machines, which we mentioned, that is actually a VHS to DVD machine, that it doesn't have the box in between. And you go and do stuff and you say, oh, yeah, this looks beautiful. This is wonderful. And then you send that out to Aunt Margaret. She pops it in and says, you sent me a blank disc. There's nothing on the disc. It says it can't read it. It says I need to put a different disc in. And she sends it back to you. You pop it in, it plays fine. The reason why these machines at Costco or Sam's Club are a couple $100 is the same reason a Fiesta is as inexpensive as it is. The components are really cheap. Those machines are made for you to record television or whatever you want to do, or transfer your VHS tapes to DVD for you to use on that machine. So it's basically almost proprietary information that's on that machine, and it's so loosely written that this machine says, oh, okay, this is stupid, but I know what it means because it's my machine.
Well, is there a way to copy that file, say, onto your desktop, and then it's playable on something else?
Usually not. Sometimes if you have a higher-end computer and you have the right software, sometimes you can take this DVD that you've made, which if you ever take a DVD, a quality DVD, and put it in your computer, it'll say it's a TS file. If you look at it where it shows you the thumbnails, you go, there's a video TS and an audio TS. Why is that? Really quickly, in the old copyright days, they made this so it's harder to copy DVDs. So you have a TS file for video and TS file for audio. And what happens is these kind of get corrupt and they don't play together. And if you separate them and try to put them back together, they'll never work. But sometimes if you have a good program like Cinematize, which we talk about constantly on this show, you can take the TS file and convert it to an MOV, and then take that MOV and make it into a QuickTime movie, put it on your Facebook page, then email that to Aunt Margaret if she's computer literate, and then she should be able to play it okay.
Wow. I mean, that sounds very complex.
Oh, it is.
Challenging, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's very much just like if somebody speaks Spanish, they might be able to understand some people in Portuguese and different languages that are close, but it's not going to be really, really good enough to, get by. And that's a problem you're going to run in with these machines, the reason they're so cheap. And I tell people, if I could go and buy equipment for $250, I wouldn't be spending $3,500 on a machine, because we have to guarantee our job. When somebody brings us in a VHS, it better work when they get their DVD home. And we'll go into a little bit more of incompatibility problems concerning discs, why they might not work for you as well in the second segment.
All right, coming up next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Can't figure out how to get your favorite Windows genealogy software running on your MacBook? Look no further than Crossover. Crossover by Codeweavers at www.codeweavers.com allows you to run your Windows software on your Mac without the need to buy a copy of Windows. Crossover is easy to install and simple to use. Crossover supports many popular genealogy packages like Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Personal Ancestral File, Family Tree Builder, and more. Crossover also lets you run other popular productivity apps like Microsoft Office and a wide range of games. So if you're looking for an easy, affordable solution to your Windows compatibility needs, visit www.codeweavers.com today to download your free trial of Crossover. And don't forget to use the deal code FAMILY for an additional 40% off when you purchase Crossover.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
We are back. Final segment of Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. I am Fisher, the Radio Root Sleuth, with Tom Perry, the Preservation Authority, answering a question about dealing with discs and compatibility. And it sounds like it's quite complicated, Tom. And most of it has to do with the fact that most of the equipment that's available to us through Costco and other outlets is just not very good quality material.
Exactly. You know, you have to understand that when you're buying something, 9 out of 10 times you get what you pay for. And the thing is, things have changed so much, even with camcorders. I remember my first camera situation when I used to shoot NFL films, it was like a $30,000 system. You can go and buy for $2,000 or $3,000 a Canon video camera now that blows that thing away, and it's a few $1,000s. So this real good quality equipment is getting into people's hands. They have no idea what they're doing with it. People are starting to be DIY people, do-it-yourself people. They need to be educated on this kind of stuff. So just because you buy a machine, don't just plug it in and start doing stuff. Read the manual. As much as everybody hates to read the manual, do research online, find out what you need to do. And a lot of times, somebody will go and spend $200 or $300 to buy a machine thinking they're going to be able to do all this stuff, and they find out they can't. Now they wasted $200 or $300. They end up sending their tapes into us anyway to have them transferred. So save yourself some of those problems. Take it to us, take it to another good quality place, and make sure that they get it right. Now, going back to the incompatibility problem, that can happen even with your discs. People call me all the time and say, I'm looking at these discs. There's plus Rs, there's minus Rs, there's DL, there's RWs. What do I buy? What should I go with?
Yeah, what does this mean?
Exactly. And I always say tile Uden discs. If you forget what the name of it is, go to our website, tmcplace.com, and you'll see on there the tile Uden disc is the kind that you want to use. The thing is, plus Rs were the first discs that come out, so it's kind of like experimental. And when they first came out, Sony and Apple were kind of not interested in carrying them. They wanted to wait till the Dash R disc came out, which is a better disc. But they're still selling plus Rs, even though they don't need to anymore. But about 3 or 4 years ago, Sony and Apple started making their Macs and their Sony machines compatible with the plus Rs just because there were so many out there. But if you have the choice to pick between a plus R and a Dash R disc, I would always go with a Dash R. I have so much better luck with Dash R discs than I do plus Rs. and they're usually the same price anyway. It's just the format they've used. So basically, back to the cheap equipment, it's cheaper to make a driver that reads or burns a plus R disc than is a dash R disc. I can always buy plus R stuff cheaper than I can dash R. And it's just like the old VHS Betamax thing. Oh, this is cheaper. This is what I'm going to go with. Where cheaper sometimes isn't the best way to go. So try to find a machine that burns dash Rs because it's going to last longer and it's a better way to go. And I really don't like dual layer discs because major incompatibility problems with them. Because usually people say, oh, I've got this thing, it's 4 hours long. I don't want to go to Blu-ray, but I don't want to use 2 discs. Go ahead and do 2 discs because it's going to be cheaper for you to duplicate 2 standard discs than 1 dual layer disc. Plus, a lot of machines have problems playing dual layer discs. If it's not professionally done, I stay away from dual layer discs. I talk clients out of using them all the time. If you're having a disc replicated like a Disney DVD you'd buy in the store, so you're buying like 1,000 of them, they're stamping them out, then dual layer discs are fine because they're all zeros and ones, they're in the right place. Everything's going to go well if you're using a dual layer disc that is basically a professional disc that's stamped out, not one that you burn at home. Now, about the RW discs, I don't like rewritable discs because same thing like we talked about a few weeks ago about reusing the tape. They can get worse. Same thing with discs. As it erases the zeros, rewrites zeros, the die actually gets weaker. And so the more times you write on it, the less compatible it's going to be. And discs are so inexpensive. Even the Tao Yuden disc, you can buy at a decent price. Don't get RW discs. They're just going to cause you all kinds of problems.
All right, great stuff, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to have been here.
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but that wraps up our 100th show. Thanks once again to Steve Anderson for coming on and sharing a very personal family story that's impacting him and his 8 siblings. Also to Alice Kesey McCoy, the descendant of abolitionist John Brown, and how he still affects her life today. If you missed any of it, catch the podcast starting Monday night. See you again next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.